it. We're at Hayden Wilson's studio. Hey! Hey!
Too much going on my part.
You get on this side so I'm not walking in.
Get inside before you start. Get inside before you start talking about it. Okay?
Hey, Hayden.
Hello,
Hey,
welcome.
Thanks, everyone. Meet Hayden Wilson at his hot glass studio.
Thanks for coming. Today we're going to go over making one of the pieces that one of my newer pieces that I've been making recently. Here's some examples of some of my blown work over here. So I'll just kind of be walking you through the process, and at any time you have any questions, let me know.
We'll yell them out.
Yeah, and feel free to grab water and snacks over there
Thanks.
if you are parched.
Hayden, do me one more favor. I'll leave you alone. Greet them again and then we're done.
Hello, welcome to my studio. We're going to be blowing some glass for you guys today, so make yourselves at home and feel free to ask me any questions.
Perfect, thank you. Rock and roll.
Okay, let's gather.
It is hot.
This is our glass furnace. This houses all of our molten glass, so I'm going to gather some clear glass over this colored bubble. The glass we use is actually made up in Spruce Pine, North Carolina. They mix all of our clear batch. Spruce Pine batch is started by Harvey Littleton, the founder of the studio glass movement. The glass is basically just molten sand, but they have a really special way of making it just right for us. So the forks are on the other side of the garage. Gather one more time, but you can go ahead and grab that cane, and then we will heat it up. You'll smush it once, and then we'll go for it.
Blow glass in the heat of the summer.
Just do a tag and a.
So sometimes
You want two tags?
We have to check and see if there can be blowing glass when we want to visit the studio. Exactly. Right.
So this tool I'm using is wet newspaper. It's about the closest you'll ever get to actually touching the glass with your hands. One of our more expensive tools, yeah. So I'm just shaping this glass. I'm going to actually gather one more time. Kate here is going to get some canes out that are preheating in this. I was born into it, kind of. I tried to push it off for a long time, but after I graduated from UNC Asheville with a concentration in sculpture, I got back into glass, and I
saw Hayden's dad back in the winter, and he's quite proud.
So these canes are something that Hayden made a few days ago. Like, we'll have a day where he's just pulling all this prep work for these pieces.
a lot of, previous days I've done all the color prep and things like that, so this might be a good shot to get a little closer if you want.
Is that okay?
Yep. What do you think? Ready? So now I take my bubble and I'll roll those canes up. Over by the wall first.
Was that a yes, sir?
You've seen canes being made, you know what that.
Try not to trap too many bubbles in here. Kind of just start horizontally, and then I can slowly change my angle. those canes to wrap up on that bubble. So you see by twisting and kind of using the surface area of the mortar to kind of grab those canes, it kind of starts twisting those into a spiral. So I'm going to try to really twist that up now. Get it really hot, twist it as much as I can, and then that's when I'm going to need your guys' help to make it look cool. So, hey, you want to get out, maybe like, get a range of random tools out.
A range of
Tags, maybe shears, tweezers, really anything.
Well, check that out. Those are some things to just put the glass in to make those forms. Molds, that's the word.
I think like another interesting thing about Glass Light, all the studios that you visit, because there's so, like all the equipment that you need, all of these glass blowers, or most of them are building it themselves too. Like they have garage, he had made, and this marker, and all of this he built. There were some things when he bought the studio that the previous glass blower had built themselves.
That's probably enough.
Maybe because they look old. because they look old and they're tools that last a long time.
You need like a really big can.
Kate, so how much strength is required?
Not a lot. You try to use your body as a fulcrum a lot, and if the glass is hot enough, you really don't have to be that strong.
When you first start to learn, you're not getting the glass hot enough because you're intimidated because it really starts moving. So then it's really cold, and your poor glass blowing partner, you're telling them to blow, and like nothing's happening, and you're like, blow harder, and they're not doing anything. Or you try and like muscle the glass, but when you really have a good understanding of the material, it's more of finesse than it is to like muscle it. But don't get me wrong, I mean, when you So before he did that, all of these lines would have just been like moving around it without all of these little wiggles in it.
Yeah,
So
they
it'd
were
be
just
totally
straight,
different
which is
aesthetic.
just kind of boring. Everybody makes straight things. So now you can kind of see it's starting to get a little bit more undulated. Do that one more time, and then I'm going to do another little push and pull game. Okay, now I want you to poke that and pull it. Just do whatever you want. Yep, okay. Good. Flip. Good. Now drag it. Okay, stop. Perfect. Okay, let go. Excellent. So now that is going to give me some information. I'm going to heat it up. Now for the next one.
Kate, what is it called? The table.
This is called a marver.
Marver.
And if I'm not mistaken, the reason it's called a marver is because they were originally made out of marble before they were these
I
thick
thought the
steel
guy who
things.
invented his name was Marv. Okay, so just take the tips and drag it. Yep.
This way?
Yep. And now the other way. I'm gonna flip it up. Now drag it the other way. Yep. Okay, now just. Yep. Perfect. One more. Okay, excellent. Oh, so each one of those marks is gonna change that line a little bit. So each one of you is helping me design my piece. Okay, next.
Go for it, Carrie. Going in.
Let's do it two at a time.
Yeah.
Two at a time.
Hayden's gonna have to write you guys a check at the end of
Okay,
it.
did you see how you just kind of drew on the surface? This time start at the tip and draw towards the pipe.
Okay.
Okay, and go. Okay, off. Let me flip. Okay. Okay, now let me flip. One more. Okay, good. Awesome. And now, I think Drew hasn't done it yet. Okay.
You've touched before.
Okay, I'm gonna just.
I think we need 2 hands for this.
Okay, so
Some-
just
well,
drag
some
the
do.
surface and flip. Drag the surface and flip. Oh, I don't need to flip. Okay, one more. Yep, perfect.
These are all substance, isn't it?
It
It really
gets
is.
hard really, really quick. The working
Okay.
time is limited.
Okay, so now is the hard part, is trying to get it back to an even bubble.
I was gonna say this kind of
You're destroying
reminds.
my work.
Oh no, it's trapped in there, I promise.
I remember when I was first learning how to blow glass, you're desperately trying to keep it on center the entire time because
So you see
once
where all those marks are, it kind of twisted the line.
Yeah.
Every subtle little mark. Something like that blue bottle there.
And what color will this one be?
This is actually black with blue lines on it.
You can envision it being red, but
Yes, yeah.
it's not going to be.
Yeah, a lot of people ask us why we only work with orange. Which I couldn't figure out.
Here's the blowing part. Here's the blown glass part.
Okay, off.
huh?
One more.
On, but it's hotter than lava. So
Hotter than lava.
it's about like 100 degrees, but it's hotter than lava. I don't know if it's hotter than the lava that's like coming out of the volcano. I don't know, like.
It's hotter than the lava that's cold.
Yeah. Because I'm like, man, this stuff's really moving. I've been watching all those videos.
I know, it's pretty
It's
wild.
crazy.
Okay. So now I'm going to let this cool down a bit. So you can see all of the little lines.
Yes, now, just a little more interesting. This looks like rain shoes, isn't it?
Right, right. So I need to let this cool down and then I'm going to gather more glass on top.
You know, not immediately when he makes the shape, but
Okay.
maybe 2 or 3 days from now, because it has to cool down slowly or else it would break.
So now I'm going to gather our last layer of glass out of the furnace.
So right now he just went into the furnace, and which is full of glass, very full today because he charged it yesterday. He dipped down below the surface level of the glass and wrapped the material up on the outside of that bubble.
Cool the pipe a little bit. It helps when you can hold on to it. To be able to feel, you know, the pipe or the tools as much.
So right now that exterior of the glass is really hot and the interior is really cold. So we're about to take a heat to kind of even all that out. And then we're going to really start blowing it up and kind of shaping the vessel. Am I doing it right there?
Yeah.
up with his dad as a glass artist, and we grew up near Penn School, so he's gotten to see different glass artists throughout his whole life.
But then I know he's also gone places to study glass.
Pete,
He's had a lot of people influence his style.
what are we doing?
I'm gonna paper it a little bit, then marker it. Angle. No. I'm just gonna kind of let gravity stretch it. Start shaping it. Left, please. Okay. So now I'm gonna take it to that steel table and start cooling the bottom.
After you've shaped it, how long does it have to cool down slowly?
After, like, when I'm finished with the whole piece,
Right.
when I'm finished with the whole piece, it's got to cool. This blown works usually from like 12 to 16 hours. Cool down from about 900 degrees. Thicker work can take a lot longer, weeks, even months. On the sides a little bit. You like that bench torch, Kate? I turned the propane tank on.
Do you have a certain vision for it, and then does that vision sometimes change?
Okay, up. So now we're going to put what's called a jack. One more.
If you're looking at a small ornament, there's some
I'm going to chip on something one more deep, paper out that neck a little bit, and then we'll start smoothing. Okay?
It's great to learn something, learn different things at each place.
Capping. Okay, stop. Lift.
So right now I actually have my thumb over the end of the pipe. So we're kind of using that air pressure inside as a tool to sculpt with. Door.
Okay, I was thinking, oh, he's limited in size, but he can keep opening that door.
I think that's good. fine. So the color will really come out more when it cools off.
Looks like a topographical map. So Hayden has a few seconds where he can really kind of center me up so that his opening is on center before this gets too stiff and then we can't move it again. So right now we're kind of rolling and checking to see if there's any high spots, and he's straightening it out. And he's putting a line in our punty so that's where it will break free without harming the piece. We were joking about this is a great chance to break it because when you first start playing you break a lot of stuff at this point. It's called the transfer. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully with a little drip of water and a tap on the pipe, it breaks free. Alright. Oh, it's not over yet.
But now we want it to be the hottest part of the glass. So that shaping that he did to the bottom piece, that's not going to change at all at this point. That's set how it is. And now he's just going to work. So you really use that torque to like stop me in a certain area that he's going to want to move the whole lot.
A picture of Harvey Littleton
Oh,
doing that.
well, yeah, he was standing up on his bench and kind of flipping. I'm not that good. No, I like keeping things on the bench because I can keep them turning and finding what center is. So when I
Okay. So what am I starting? Name? Do we paddle?
maybe shield my fingers. Now we start pinching it to elongate. get down towards the funny, you're not gonna be able to get all the way in, but. Do you want me to catch? Okay! And there it is!
Wow.
That oven is 900 degrees right now.
So it'll slowly cool in there overnight, and I'll be able to get it out and see if I like it tomorrow.
That's awesome.
Thanks so much for coming!
Thank you, Hayden.
Quite an experience.
Perfect.
That was quite something.
Well, and I owe you one.
Okay, so tell us about coming to this kind of studio. Is it typical on one of your tours?
This is a typical stop on an Art Connections tour. I try to find artists that people wouldn't normally find in Asheville. It's wonderful to go in the galleries and in the River Arts District as well, but what I like to do is specialize in coming to a home studio where people wouldn't really find them on their own. So I can make that introduction, and they can also learn a lot from the artist. So Hayden's able to just show us the whole process.
Don't look at me. Sorry.
But that was
good.
great.
Okay.
So we can use it.
We can use
Just a
it.
quick look and
Just,
see.
it's okay.
Right. Yep, and you start, it all starts with that initial starter bubble. Yeah, everything, all of like, oh, cool. Oh, right, awesome. Yeah, I think the nighttime one. No, I gave her my number, but get stock photos.
I'd love the opportunity to go there and back, take some of my own
Okay.
pictures and video.
Definitely.
These short, snackable, as we call it, videos for Facebook.
Right.
Potentially on the page.
Right. Yeah, I want to put it out as much as possible so people.
Okay.
Glass, like multifaceted, and
So the
there's a few
reflections.
samples over here, yes.
Right.
And then well, after working for the Stained Glass Studio in Austin, I became really frustrated because I wanted to do my own designs, and they were doing very nice work, but very traditional designs. I really admired, especially from my college days of art history and seeing what other people in the world were doing.
Can we make sure, Sherry,
Okay.
go ahead.
So we've come to see Carl Powell, who's been here in this studio almost 20 years, I think.
19 years. this
Wow.
summer, yes.
Long time. And Carl does a lot of different types of glass. Stained glass is where he started, but he also does laminate work, and that's real unusual. Not very many people, no one else that I know of in Asheville does work like this. So for this tour, we really wanted to give an experience of different styles of glass. So this is a perfect stop to learn something new.
I take plate glass. These are just pieces of plate glass, and some of it is commercially available just at any commercial plate glass company. But what I do is after I cut it to the shape I want, I then etch it with different etching tools, sometimes diamonds, sometimes carbide. And then once the whole surface of of the glass is finished, I laminate them together. Now this is a piece that's in progress, and you can feel that the edges are still very irregular. Now once the adhesive, which is an archival adhesive, once it's set, then I take the whole big chunk of glass over to my machines over here, and I grind and polish all the surfaces so they're totally flat, like these over here.
Like this here.
Finish with it. You can see that this whole section comes out right now, but it will be permanently attached. But this is actually some very rare glass that I found that hasn't been made in about 70 years. But if you look closely, you can see some etchings inside too.
I was wondering about that color. So that's a historic
Oh,
glass.
yeah, it's very rare. And I have just a certain amount of it, but I use it in small areas of glass. Like on this piece right here, you can see on the, I call it the neck of the piece. I use a small just for accent. It's finished. You can see those red areas. That's where I've drilled into the individual pieces of glass and then painted a color pigment in the hollow space before laminating. So therefore, that just kind of floats in the middle of the glass here. Do laminations of glass. What's different about mine are the internal etchings and imagery.
Okay.
But the newest work I'm doing, I've always wanted to be able to draw on glass, but you just can't draw on glass, you know, it just doesn't do anything. But I came up with a technique of acid etching the glass to get a different surface to the glass. So therefore, I can then actually draw right on the glass, even with just pencils, see? Okay, a little hard to see, but you can even take color pencils and draw on that area. See, when it comes over to the clear glass, it doesn't do anything.
Fades away.
Yes. So I've done about 4 of those so far. And this is a brand new technique that I developed. There's a few behind the cameraman that are finished, and there's several on the pedestals over here that are finished with the internal drawing. Some with just graphite.
Yes. That's quite something, Bob.
Yeah, this is the one with just graphite here, and these are the internal etchings here on this piece. These are all hand ground and polished here out of just thick glass. There's some more. But after I worked at the second stained glass studio, I started about that, so I invited him to start teaching in his school in Seattle.
Great.
So I taught these rondelles for me, and I'd use those in a lot of my stained glass commissions. Yes.
So it's hard to
Yes.
appreciate it from.
Right.
Right, let's just mill around and look.
I moved a piece because I thought you were maybe talking about some, but it's the same.
Yeah, these are the color with the.
Very, very different. Do people put them on sort of rotary? It's almost you want
I
something.
think.
I love artwork that you discover something new in.
Yeah.
So I've just got good photographs of that from a photographer.
Was it in
there.
someone's
It's-
home or?
No, it's in a place called the Van Dyke Performing Arts Space.
Okay.
And you'll see it actually. This is called a stone wheel here, and it gives a pre-polish. See, here's one of my color pieces, and you can see that the bottom I've gotten to wheel number 3. Now this is wheel number 4 here. I'm going to start getting rid of some of that roughness. If you get close, you can actually see where it's doing this thing right here. So the purpose of each wheel is to get rid of the finish of the previous wheel until you get to your final polish. Okay?
That's pretty cool. That's really neat. a
Yeah.
commission piece.
Yes.
Really take a long time to.
They take a long time. This is probably the most time-consuming glass technique there is that I know, especially the laminating technique. I mean, some of these will take anywhere from 200 to 500 hours to complete a piece. Whereas blown glass is more immediate. Blown glass is a lot of fun to watch. Let me turn my machine on.
I didn't even notice the red stripe. I just saw
And look at the internal region. We
Yeah.
almost have to get up
Yeah,
to
look
it just
at
to
that.
see that, you know.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really neat.
Your process would be like a cooking show.
All cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you don't want to throw this.
Glass.
Have you been to Grovewood before?
Yes.
Yeah, this is
So,
not huge.
This old building.
Upstairs with
And that's,
Kathleen
see, that's
Doyle
one
on
of the,
top.
one of the
Oh,
ride
yeah.
mills on the right.
Yeah. Floor slope and
Yeah.
had
Drawing
big,
gets
heavy.
potato. Doors are about
Yeah.
10 feet tall. And there's the finished piece. And that's the finished piece.
Mm.
And this next slide is in a different, and those are 4 doors in a community center. And that's something to relate to.
Right.
The committee that was in charge of that were rather young and they didn't want something that was very traditional. And this is in a home, that's the before, and that's the after.
Oh, how long would it take you to do that?
Well, the Alaska Commission, I don't think I've got to the Alaska Commission. This is the design for the Alaska Commission. It took about 8 months of a lot of work. Because when I get a really big commission like that, I don't know how long it's gonna take, so I just start working 7 days a week until I sort of art center in Winston-Salem. Now, this is the one that I just finished last fall in Greensboro. That's just one of the walls. From the best glass blowers. I knew that I never wanted to do that myself, though.
Right.
My own furnace, he's deceased now, is Stanislav Levinsky.
Oh, I can't spell that.
Well, I can do it for you.
Thank you.
I can-
S-T-A.
Livinsky.
Oh,
He was
okay.
from
Yeah.
Czechoslovakia, and he was probably the most famous glass artist in all of Europe. This piece been.
Mm.
Okay, this is
Oh,
this is
magic. Who installs it?
well, most of the time I install, but this was so big that in the contract I didn't have to do it. I just had to be there. I look at any really big stained glass, it's built in different panels that are put in separately.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else besides stained glass to do.
Yeah.
Just because, it's just,
The next stage
yes.
of process. Okay, wonderful. That's great.
And it gives you an opportunity to use.
Oh, look at that.
Don't hit my, don't
I'm
hit
not hitting your camera.
Roy.
You're going to ask me questions.
I'm going to ask you questions.
Okay.
Sherry, when you take folks out on a tour, it's different every time. Tell us that it's different every time because why?
Every time I have a tour, it's different. Each participant gets to experience something new. I've done tours for 5 years now, and every single tour has been different. And that's because Western North Carolina has a huge number of artists, and the participants like different things. So I want to customize it so that they're enjoying something that really interests them. So I kind of ask questions, and then I offer suggestions, and then we go from there.
How long do your tours normally take?
So tours are either a half-day tour or a whole-day tour, and there's a lot to pack into that time. But if we go on a half-day tour, we would meet that morning and go visit 3 artists and spend about 45 minutes with each one, and then we're done at lunchtime. So a full-day tour, we would include lunch. We would stop at a wonderful small cafe in the area, see some of the countryside, and we would probably visit 4 or 5 artists.
Now you told me that every tour is different because sometimes tour artists are out of town, they're not blowing glass that day or creating art. So
Exactly.
just tell me the reasons why your tours vary every time. So the people can come back and take another tour, right?
It's exactly right. Someone can take a tour every time they come to Asheville, and it would be different. They may have discovered something about the area and they want to investigate that more, or they may have heard about glass and they want to explore just glass. So we could focus on one medium. Sometimes someone's looking for a new piece for their home. They might need a new painting or a sculpture for a remodel in their home, so we would have a specific purpose when we went on a tour. Perhaps we would see paintings in the morning and pottery in the afternoon and glass at the end.
What is it though about meeting the artist himself or herself? I mean, there's something special about knowing a little bit, of having that special personal connection.
My tours are like an invitation to make a new friend or an invitation to meet someone that you can form a connection with. So many times tour participants find that they have something in common with the artist. Maybe they both lived in the same area previously, or I had a tour where folks were both from Los Angeles. The artist and the tour participants had lived there, and they knew the same street and the same cafe. So things like that happen regularly. So it's a great way to get to know behind the scenes of the artist's work, but to just meet them and learn a little bit of their story and make a connection.
I didn't realize until I'm watching before, when we were at Hayden, just the passion, the sweat, the amount of the artist's own, internal artistic self that goes into these works. Tell us a little about what you're going to see as a participant when you meet an artist, how you see their work and how their thinking goes and all that they put into that work.
This is the artist's life. This is what they love doing, and they are passionate about sharing what they know, what they have studied, what they've mastered over their career, or what they're learning that's new. So seeing that from the artist is really wonderful. You get a glimpse of kind of their thought process, how new ideas come and how they experiment and try things, or just how their careers have developed over time, and you really get to see what their life is like. It's really wonderful.
Different techniques. You see different fabrications. That's a wonderful word I just heard. Different structures, how things are built differently, how the different sort of mediums that they're using. Tell us all the, just tell me that in your words, that you're going to get to experience that. I mean, I've seen things just now from Carl that I've never seen before.
Exactly.
So
when you see a piece of art, if it's in a museum or a gallery or on the street, you might assume you know how it's created, but when you come into a studio and hear from the artist, you truly understand the steps behind it, the planning, the preparation they have to do to create the piece. They want to do it the most efficient way as possible, so there's a lot that goes into the planning and just all the years they've experienced their art too. One thing that people sometimes say is, how long did it take you to make that piece? Well, the best answer might be 40 years. So it's their whole life.
I love that. All right, hold okay, because your audience participation, what should I ask her? Stay there, don't move. That'll be a great one. Okay, thank you. Hang on 1 second.
Am I slumping?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You're perfect.
You look great.
You're good.
So why Western North Carolina?
One thing that people want to understand, and they know that Asheville and the Western North Carolina region is known for arts and really a destination, a mecca for arts, and they don't know why. Why do so many artists live here? Well, partly the artists love just the environment and being in the beautiful area. The nature here is so beautiful in the mountains. But really, it's the community of artists that are here. It's also that they can get their supplies here. Wood artists can get their supplies here, clay artists can, and glass artists can. But also the community of the tradition of schools being here and old organizations supporting the arts, like Penland School and Campbell Folk School, also the Southern Highland Craft Guild. Then newer organizations like the North Carolina Glass Center, the Center for Craft, all of these organizations and schools combine to make this an ideal place for an artist to live.
Yes! Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for that.
Yeah,
But, yeah, glad I did it, wouldn't want to do it again.
yeah, quite an experience.
Oh, yes, I had a ball.
Do you travel all over the world? Are we allowed to say?
With the Navy?
Yes?
No.
Yeah.
We went through the Panama Canal, got a free trip through the Panama
Okay,
Canal. That
wow,
was
okay.
fascinating. But, no, school and studied art.
So, which school did you go to?
I did my undergraduate with
It's true.
What do you incorporate in your glass works? I mean,
Got my finger in it or no?
what do I incorporate
yes,
into it?
you've got elements within your glass. Do you pre-design these in your own mind? So we present it in a way that's different.
His use of diacrylics.
Okay, so can you say something like, can you ask him to explain that simply?
Just gonna take one last photo, please forgive me.
There we go. All right,
Okay.
so tell us.
We're here in Bob Steffen's studio, and he is a master at using diacrylics in glass, and that's something that I don't really understand a lot about. So Bob, please explain to us about your use of diacrylics.
Diacrylic is just an element of glass. It's a coating on the glass. Very much like you'd see inside camera lenses or on sunglasses. You see the wonderful blue or yellow or green. It's an optical coating that's put on in a vacuum chamber, and it reflects one color, but if you look through it, it transmits a different color. Got a couple pieces of it here. Like with this one, you can see the kind of a gold color, but if you look through it, it's blue. And if you change the angle, it will change color. Here's one that reflects kind of a green, but if you look through it, it's pink. And you change the angle, it gets orange. This one's a little hard to see. It's very reflective, but it's purple.
Wow.
So the coating is just on one surface, and it's very, very thin, almost 6/millionths of an inch thick.
Wow.
And it can be scratched and removed off. But what I do is I laminate it. I will take, these are all my props over here. I will take a clear ball that I made out of my furnace of glass, because I do make my own glass from sand. Start with the raw materials, that way I have more quality control. So this is just a clear ball, not a crystal ball. I don't make crystal balls. But I will take this and cut it in half, polish the surfaces, and then bond a proper size piece of glass into it. And the result, a clear ball that has been cut this way, has a piece of dichroic in it. And then I will cut it again. This time, instead of putting it together the right way, I'll put it together in a different orientation. Kind of mixes it all up. And before it's done, I will do this 7 or 8 times. Each joint or each bond takes about a week to cure. So it's a very long process. These are about 2 months in process. This is what it looks like after I'm done cutting and bonding and cutting and bonding.
Can we touch that?
And then the end result, after I polish that gnarly looking piece of glass, will be a piece of glass that looks like this.
Wow.
And you can handle that.
Okay, thanks.
And I tell people I just have fun for a living.
So you've incorporated hot glass and laminated cold glass techniques.
Exactly. Most of my work is what's considered cold working. After the glass is made, it goes through an annealing process, cools down to room temperature very slowly so there's no stress on the glass. And then I can take this and cut through it with a diamond saw just to end up with pieces like this. All the scratches and all there is just so I have some texture to hold on to while I'm grinding and polishing. Smooth glass. The center one I will subdivide so I can empty out a center and put in this case, a piece of blue glass. And then glue it all together and it becomes a block. And then I start doing all of these random, or what appears to be random cuts, gluing my dichroic into it. And then it gets polished. And in this case, then a layer of thick, clear crystal will be bonded to it. And then I'll grind and polish these two sides, do the same thing, and then the final sides. And then grind and polish the whole outside. So this is, again, 2 to 3 months from beginning to end.
Wow.
Now during that period I can work with more than one piece of glass, so it's not like I have to sit and wait for that one piece for 3 months and then more organized or dramatic.
You've added an element of air in there, or bubbles or something.
Now the center of that has a lot of bubbles in it, that's glass I made out of my furnace, intentionally trapping a lot of bubbles. And then
when you cut it.
let that become,
Okay.
getting bigger than that, kind of tough on the back.
Right.
And to me, size is not as important as the final object. And in pretty much every case,
Very
Yeah, these are beautiful.
Really
They're different.
beautiful. Even the unpolished one.
interesting. That makes it fun.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
yeah, I want them to be enjoyed and played with.
Yeah.
I'll be getting more as I make it, but right now I deal with one other, actually a jewelry store in Boston, and that's the limit of my exposure right now. When I was in a store around the country, but
I remember you
stopped
used to
that, and now
go.
I'm just doing what I enjoy.
I remember seeing you at the wholesale shows, the big wholesale shows.
Right. And that's how I started working with John Cram, with my production work. Probably
Yes, sir.
would. I've never
Yeah.
I've
I
never
just wanted
approached
to
them.
know, from a business standpoint, there's a lot of
Also,
individuals.
I'm in the
here.
county,
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm not a member of the chamber, although I could be.
Okay.
I don't know what
So,
Okay. So Sherry, okay, when we sign up for a tour, every time you sign up for a new tour, it's different, right? So it's different because sometimes the artists are not there, they've gone out, they're not blowing glass that evening. So just tell us a little bit about how long those tours are, and every time you sign up for a tour, there'll be a different opportunity.
okay. Good. Right. Every tour with Art Connections is different. I've never done a tour that's been the same, and that's because tour participants have different interests, so I try to customize the tours to meet the interests of the tour participants. Sometimes the artists are out of town or unavailable, so I can't count on them every single time. So every tour I do will be different.
Let's start that again.
Yeah, that wasn't
Let's-
good.
Take your time. I'm sorry we have to.
I'm so sorry. Just do.
You're so good at
Okay.
it. Yeah. Don't think about it too much.
Okay.
Just tell me that, if you sign up for a tour, you did the thing about in the morning, it could be a 3-hour tour, in the afternoon, it could be all day.
Okay.
In the morning, we may see 3 different glass artists.
Sure.
And every time it's different.
I started giving tours 5 years ago, and I've never repeated the same tour. And that's what's so wonderful about my tour business, is that every tour is different. The tour participants have different interests, and then the artists aren't always available, so I have to kind of plan on who's available, how much driving time we have between. So if someone wanted just a half-day tour, we would try not to drive a lot. We would try to find artists who are close together, and then we would visit 3 artists for about 45 minutes. And then for a full-day tour, we might go to 4 or 5 artists and enjoy lunch together and spend more time together. So every tour is different. Yeah.
why is it important to go and meet the artist in their studio to really understand the work and the passion and a little bit about them that goes into each of the works?
When you go and meet an artist, it's really an invitation to get a behind-the-scenes look at what they do. You'll learn more about their background. You know, they may tell you their whole life story, but you'll learn about their education, how they learned about their craft, where they studied, and then how they experiment and try new things. So every time an artist really shares just their life with us on a tour. So each tour is a wonderful opportunity to meet an artist and make a connection with them.
Tell us about the fact that on your tours you're going to see glass used and made in the different methods, the different fabrications, the different structures that are used within the glass arts themselves.
There's so many artists in Western North Carolina, and each artist has their own expression of their craft, so you'll never really see the same thing. You'll never see it twice. Each artist puts their own personality into it. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of preparation ahead of time, so you'll get a glimpse at what they do to create the finished process. It'll be much more than you really imagine. Just by seeing a piece of art, you may get an idea of what you think it. Just by seeing a piece of art in a gallery or a museum, you may think you understand it, but by going to the studio, you really get an in-depth experience of how that piece was created.
That was good. Let's talk about the fact that why Western North Carolina? Why are there so many? And you talked about pottery because the materials are here, glass because the material, you know, woodworking. So why Western? Take and start off with us. You know, here in Western North Carolina.
Western North Carolina is nationally known as an arts and crafts mecca. So many artists live here, and people may not understand why or how that came to be, but it's really centuries old from when artists were here, you know, 100 years or more ago. Of course, some came to work on the Biltmore estate, but many others were just here because of the beauty of this area, but also because craft schools are here, organizations that support artists are here. And then another thing that you just may not really realize is their raw materials are here. Woodworkers, of course, have raw materials here, potters, glass artists, everyone, fiber artists definitely have raw materials here. So that's another influencing factor on why so many artists live in this area.
Tell me again what happens on a glass tour with you. That, you know, when every tour is different. Do that one again for me. When you sign up for a glass tour with me, every time it's different. It's based on availability of the artist, you know.
Just talk about glass.
Yeah, just tell me on your tour. Let's go back to that first question.
Okay.
Because I know you can do it.
Okay. When you sign up to go with me on an Art Connections tour, every experience will be different. Even going to the same artist, some artists I go to over and over again when they're available, but each visit is different because they're working on something new. They have a new inspiration or a new idea. But going especially to glass studios here in the area, every studio is making something unique, and it's really wonderful to see all of that, all the variety and just all of the inspiration that's here.
Sometimes your visitor, your people that join you on the tours have something in mind that they want commissioned. Sometimes they've got an inspiration.
Right. Occasionally a tour participant will have something they need. They might have a new home in the area and need a new painting or would like a sculpture for their new home. So this is a great way for me to introduce them to artists that they don't know about in the area and that they might find just that perfect piece for their home.
I think that's
Good.
great.
Good.
Yes, ma'am. I sure do. You're my kind of people,
There you
Julia.
go,
I
there
love
you
you
go.
already. You and Bob
And Cousin James.
and
right?
cousin James. That's right.
Hang on. Really a once in a lifetime opportunity. Isn't
Yes, it is.
And Julia, let me know if you need me to.
Well, what you're going to hear is noises like that. We'll have
Yeah.
to start again. So there's just, yeah, and
the door's
listen-
opening in like
Okay.
7
Yes.
minutes.
All right. So tell us, Travis, why is it so special to come to Biltmore right now?
It's spectacular to visit Biltmore right now. We are thrilled to be hosting our first exhibition of Chihully at Biltmore. It is stunningly beautiful.
How many installations are there going on?
16 total installations across the estate.
Let's talk about those. So we've got let's just say we've got 16 different installations. So as you explore, in your own words.
Okay, sure. Chihully created for Biltmore an installation.
Sorry, we can hear that noise.
That's all right, we're gonna have to
We're
leave it
gonna,
there.
yeah,
It's the guards that
Right.
are doing the
Okay. So
we can go outside though.
yeah, we're going to do it as much as we
We
can.
do.
in there.
And one other thing, Julia, do you need her to repeat your question?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. Chihully created for Biltmore 16 spectacular installations across the estate that we have been able to illuminate for special night visits, and guests can enjoy them during the day as well.
So when you buy a ticket to the Biltmore House to see it, and usually this is a new additional feature of that ticket experience, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so the Biltmore ticket includes a visit to the house, gardens, and winery, and then the exhibition is included in that ticket as well.
Great. What would the experience? I mean, to see Biltmore and its finery, and yet with this additional sort of modern. Tell us a little bit why did you choose this, and what's it all about?
We selected Chihully to complement the existing landscape that Olmsted created for Mr. Vanderbilt back at the turn of the century. We felt like this exhibition really showcases Biltmore in a different way with these spectacular glass structures.
There's adult audio tours, there's kids audio tours, there's special garden containers and water gardens. There's all sorts of additional things you can enhance your experience. Tell us a little bit about those things that you can do as part of the experience.
Yes, we offer many opportunities for our guests to thoroughly immerse themselves in Biltmore and really enjoy their visit to the estate. So there's opportunities for audio. We also have outdoor activities our guests can enjoy: segways, fishing, rafting, biking, horseback riding, carriage rides. So many opportunities for families to come and spend their time with us and enjoy the estate in all its splendor.
Let's do that again, because that was a lousy squeak.
Yes, ma'am.
What other things can we do when we come to Biltmore?
There are many opportunities for families to enjoy and truly immerse themselves in Biltmore. Outdoor horseback riding, I messed that up. There are many opportunities for families to come and immerse themselves in the Biltmore experience. We offer horseback riding, carriage rides, segways, fly fishing, biking, rafting. So it's a wonderful opportunities for families to come and visit the estate and spend time together and create memories that will last a lifetime.
There's a special Chihully package for the evenings. Tell us about that additional opportunity, because it's the first time, isn't it, that you've done an evening over here.
The summer evening package that we are offering, The Chihully experience also includes an evening visit to the estate for an additional ticket, and our guests can come and see the Chihully sculptures illuminated at night. And they really take on a whole new ambiance in the evening. They're really gorgeous, and guests can really enjoy seeing them in spectacular lighting.
There's also opportunities for wine stops and music that goes on at certain venues. So
Yes. We created the Chihully evening experience so guests could enjoy the backdrop of the Blue Ridge Mountains and visit Biltmore and see the Chihully installations across the property and enjoy music and wine during the evening. So it truly is a different experience from the daytime visit, and it's just spectacular.
Of these 16 exhibits, some of them are created specially for Biltmore, the installations. Some are repurposed from others. So, you know, even if you're a Chihully lover of glass, this is a place to come right now this summer.
Yes, Dale Chihully created specifically for Biltmore 3 new glass installations and then 6 compositions, which is existing glass that the studio owned, and he put them together to make new and interesting installations for the guests to enjoy.
Wonderful. The music, there's a feeling about Biltmore, isn't there? There's something about just being in this house with such opulence. It sort of reflects on gentler times, or I'm sure they weren't. For many, it was a very tough time in our history. But tell us a little bit about the experience of being in Biltmore, just seeing.
George Vanderbilt created Biltmore as an escape for himself and his family and friends to come and just enjoy the beauty of the Blue Ridge Mountains, relax and get away. And that's the same experience that we are replicating today for our guests who visit Biltmore.
Good, those are very good. Can you tell us, this is the Laguna Torcello, the second sculpture? Can you say that? You okay with that? That's the name of this particular...
Laguna Torcello.
Okay, so tell us, we're standing here in the Laguna Torcello exhibition, right in the center of the Winter Garden, right in the house. It's the first thing, you know, no, not it's the first thing, but it's one of the main attractions.
Yes. The exhibit behind me is Laguna Torcello, and it was created by Dale as a result of his love for Venice, Italy. And it really focuses on the sea life forms and just an escape for our guests to experience when they first walk into Biltmore. And George Vanderbilt had a love of art, and we just really are trying to showcase that love in a different way, in a different experience for our guests.
This is good.
Good. What can we answer?
Is there anything else you think you want to say about the guest experience or coming to Biltmore? Or people coming in, so.
Yes, ma'am. We offer lodging packages for people to come and visit. There are 2 different lodging packages available, and so guests are welcome to join. Guests are welcome to look on the website at www.biltmore.com to learn more information about those lodging packages.
So you have a really Chihully special Chihully package. Let's say we have special Chihully packages available, which include lodging.
Yes, we have special Chihully packages which include lodging that guests can learn more about on our website.
That was great.
Okay.
Super job. Just going to do a shot of this working. So just keep doing your thing. She just notices taking a picture.
Sit out here with the dog and make follow.
Your golf course over there.
And you'll see some shops. At the very end, in the stable area, there's a shop all the way on the left. You can ask anybody in those shops to see if they've got any horses.
We saw some amazing horses leaving what's it called? Antler Village? Antler Village, yeah, the way here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
The
like
sun was
blonde
hitting
mane,
just there.
yeah, just like prize winners.
Oh yeah,
You know?
we have endurance. So everybody should be aware that if you get questions throughout the day, just know that they're just doing their job, and we can talk to whoever says something to you.
Yeah,
Yeah, once you're out of the house, it's so relaxed.
Yeah.
But just
Well,
being
yeah,
inside
the
the
people
house
wherever you-
is, yeah,
tough to keep
it
track
is
of.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I bet you
feel
somebody's watching that though.
Oh yeah.
You know, you
They're
got to.
cameras.
You got
front of you. Isn't that beautiful, Frank? Thank you. Conscious of where I'm aiming my butt at people, and I think it's impolite to just stand there.
Now they're taking down.
These kids in that it's really tough because all the staff and stuff are turning over to get stuff out.
Right.
It was a great shot. Oh, there's a butt.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, because for the last 2 weeks we didn't have it in Florida. But then you get used to it, though.
Yeah.
You've got the real camera. I'll tell you that. Oh, well, you know what? There's a thing called rental.com. Yeah, so I rent rentals in a car. Ever been in stuck with that couple. And they said that they have to bring me like a chandelier that looks like this. Only
Not working too well.
We're not going back inside tonight, though, right?
Yeah, we go. Jim's in a gab fest now. We lost him.
I'll catch up with you. I'm going to lower the. I don't want to bean anybody in the nostril.
Oh, you're no fun.
I know, I'm no fun.
We have an intern doing graphics? Part-time?
Part-timer, yeah. Could be wrong there.
I don't know. I've
Yeah,
seen her
what's
in the
her-
hallway.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't know if she does sets and stuff.
I don't.
I'd be amazed.
I don't think we have a set designer. They're going to realize that we really do need one.
If they want to keep doing talky heads, not my fault. But that's for new guys.
We also don't have anybody who can do woodworking.
No.
The facilities guys know how to use a saw and all that, but they really don't know how to build anything.
Seems lately they're putting out fires with our systems.
Yeah.
Some breaking down.
Yeah, Phil said that once they finish the renovation, they'll all just want to do separate.
Okay.
You're welcome to get your camera out. You want me to stay here?
Looks like somebody broke the dog.
Tonight you're sleeping on the couch. We did tell you about that, right?
I saw this, I know people see it last year when they were at the garden.
That boat is spectacular.
I think he's recording. I think that's all that is behind him.
He had his hands covering the cow's face. We'll carry.
Okay.
Chihully's work is so large and colourful. So how did you incorporate it into the house and into the gardens?
Well, we wanted to keep it in what Olmsted and George Vanderbilt referred to as the pleasure grounds. So these were the areas where, for lack of a better term, what Vanderbilt said, a garden of ornament, so that they fit in this historic garden. Then we turned it over to the gardeners. So they were charged with choosing plants that would work with the Chihully colors. In some of the areas, we start with a bare slate. So this hedge, this, that. In other areas, we already had the plantings, and then Chihully came and said, this is what we'd like to plant, or this is the sculpture we'd like to put here. So we didn't have to do much at all.
Okay. All right, we're going to have to do some of that again.
Anytime.
All right.
Chihully's work is so large and so colourful. How did you incorporate it in the gardens and the home?
We chose to keep the pieces focused in this, what we call the pleasure garden, what Olmsted and Vanderbilt both called the pleasure garden. So it's a garden of ornament. These sort of things will fit. It's for the guest enjoyment.
Perfect. But I'm here to make you look good, so there you go. All right, wonderful. Tell us then, Parker, about the plantings. So the plantings, the colours of the plantings are specifically chosen to go with the works of art.
Which begonia is that? Whopper. Okay. Do you remember the
Green leaf whopper.
green leaf? Okay, I'll just say
Wonderful.
Whopper, begonias. Okay. All right.
All right.
I would have just said begonia.
you.
And actually, I think I still might say begonia instead of whopper.
Just say begonia,
Begonia,
because
right.
the audience will
All right.
understand it.
So one more time, please.
Okay. So tell us about how you chose the plantings to augment the actual objects themselves.
So these pieces in the walled garden, we actually started with a clean slate. So the hedging and the work right around the piece itself serves a couple of functions. One of that is that it hides the superstructure, the foundation. And so the gardeners worked very hard to get the right colors, the right heights that would work with the lighting for the evening, because the evening is pretty special. And then in the rest of the gardens, looking at the colors of that piece and then choosing just the right begonia with just the right red with actually a little yellow stamen in the middle of it, it echoes that color almost exactly.
Great. Sounds like we need a close-up of that, don't we?
Yes.
The landscaping and the lighting, you've done a lot of lighting. We're going to see that tonight because we're going to be filming tonight. Tell us how the challenges, because this sort of piece, they're large pieces to light up from, and they have to be seen from completely around. Tell us a little about the challenges you faced.
One of my favorite parts of this was actually working with the Chihully landscape lighting people. The people who, they're used to museum quality lighting, and to do that in an outdoor situation, it's really challenging for them. All the plant heights have to work. The lighting has to be just right, and then the lighting that we do around the outside has to be in such a way that it's safe for guests to walk, but doesn't do anything to detract from that wonderful lighting that the Chihully staff actually did to accentuate those pieces.
Wonderful, wonderful. What does this mean to the gardens and the mission to have something like it sort of brings it up to today? You know, you've got a traditional older established house, and yet you've got a piece of very modern artwork. What does it mean for the Biltmore Estates?
As we worked with Chihully for the last several years, one of the things that we struggled with, that I personally struggled with, was a modern art in a historic garden. You know, will it work? Did it work? I think we got it right. One of the things that I like a lot about it is the placement of the pieces and how they work with the garden as a whole. So the guest of George Vanderbilt in the 1890s, the walkways were laid out so the guests would stroll through the gardens. They would see this and then they would see that. And Vanderbilt referred to this area as a garden of ornament. It's pretty ornamental. So that struggle of the modern and historic actually blended together pretty well. One more time.
Sorry, we've got noise. Do you need him to do that last bit again? Okay, let's, it's just the cars, sorry, and there's nothing you can do about it, it's just because we're outside, but it's a lovely setting. Well, let's redo the piece of the modern, the modern art and sculpture in the traditional setting.
And you'll take those and blend them together and actually make it sound like something?
I will. You will look at and sound fabulous.
Okay.
They didn't sound good. Not you. Them. When Bob says we're ready, anytime. Go ahead.
I struggled with that concept of this modern art and this historic garden. The garden was a pleasure garden. It was meant for the guest of George Vanderbilt to enjoy. We still do that. This is a garden of ornament, and that is very ornamental. I'm sorry?
That's good. No.
Okay.
Actually, I loved it. I loved it. I can do that. That's wonderful.
Actually,
That's
he's
wonderful.
looking around going like this.
No, he's busy.
Oh, okay.
He's fine.
I thought he gave up on it. I was like, okay, that's done.
Don't worry about Bob. One of the things, Parker, you're doing is you've got special water garden and container seminars. So to augment the experience of the guests, they can also have the pleasure of learning a little bit more. Tell us a little bit. Just give me a little short one.
Sure.
So,
There's all kinds of things for our guests to enjoy. Everything from a tour, a late night tour of the house to look down on some of these pieces that are lit up. They get to explore the house at night. In the daytime, there's seminars on water gardening, other things, how to use glass. If you visit some of the retail shops from here all the way over to the winery, you'll see some really exquisite stuff.
Lovely, lovely. What do you think it means to Biltmore and to you to have this? I mean, this must be, in your career, one of those moments of pride.
for Biltmore, this is the very first time that we've done two things. One is have this type of an art display in these gardens. It's also the first time we've opened up the gardens to our guests in the evenings to stroll through, to enjoy. Everything from the scent in the rose garden to this exquisite lighting as you get up to the, especially for me, the Italian water gardens, and how those pieces are lit up at night with the water, and you can see fish swimming. It's really, it's a total experience for our guests.
What's it mean to you?
For me personally, I've known about Chihully and gardens, and we've talked about how to bring art as a layer in these gardens. These gardens stand alone on their own. What the gardeners do on a day-to-day basis, everything from wisteria in the spring to beautiful mum displays in the fall, all these things go together. But then how do you add, how can you build on that without taking away from all of that beautiful garden? This really beautiful art, I think, adds a layer, adds another dimension to the garden that for guests, I don't know how you could add anything better.
What do you want the guest to come away with? I mean, even the guest that has got an annual pass, this is yes, you understand.
One of the things that Olmsted talked about, Frederick Law Olmsted, who laid out these gardens in the 1890s.
Could you start that again and just say his name so
Sure.
people would...
The whole, okay. So in the 1890s, Frederick Law Olmsted worked with George Vanderbilt to lay out these gardens, these pleasure grounds.
Sorry,
Yep.
honey. We're rolling. Go ahead. What do you want guests to come away with?
In the 1890s, when George Vanderbilt and Frederick Law Olmsted, the landscape architect, were laying these grounds out, it was all about the guest enjoyment and the guest experience. Olmsted had a couple of letters that he wrote, but one of the things he talked about on his landscapes was the play of light and color. And for me, with these glass sculptures in the garden, I can see it in the landscape. How a certain tree casts a shadow and you see the shadows on the walls, things like that. What a guest is going to see both in the daytime and then when they come back at night is that play of light and color, whether you're looking at a sculpture one way or whether you go around to the other direction and see the sunlight coming through it, backlit. Just to notice those little details, I think is going to be really important for the guest.
I want you to give me a sentence or two sentences. I think it's the play of light on the works of art in this beautiful surrounds, or something.
Okay. For me, landscapes, and I'll use Frederick Law Olmsted's quotes about, the play of light and color, that really means a lot to me in the landscape. These sculptures, that play of light and color, how you view them, from what direction, that means a lot.
That's great. That was great. That was
Okay.
great. Is there anything else you want when he leaves? Is there anything else you want to say, though, Parker? Is there anything that to inspire our guests?
Yeah, actually, I do a couple of things.
Do you have a couple of things? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't think of. He's as soon as he's moved off.
Yeah. Lighting, electricity, data, all that stuff. You don't need that, right? That's the guy that makes it happen. Yeah.
Oh, we don't need him.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you,
Really important.
You understand this better, the best, I mean, of all of us. So tell us, it's really for our audience to be inspired. Hang on one second, Bob will tell you when we're ready.
Okay. I've been inspired with this particular installation, working with Chihully, but more so working with the staff, our gardeners, and watching what they did over the last 12, 18 months, choosing different plants, talking about how guests will approach these installations, what they'll experience, and each installation has a group of gardeners that have sweated, literally sweated over those details. I know that, and I hope our guests come away with just simply that every detail was handled.
That was great. That was great.
Still not sure on that one, but okay.
Yeah, it's like a hurricane.
As soon as it gets good, get out of here.
No, I meant the wind is blowing the flowers so much. But yeah, this is touching. Yeah, you're right.
Do they need to be around? You need them around?
Okay. Can't use it. Let's see. It's hard to believe what they have come across the treetops. Wow, man. Let's see the national guard. Fortunately, you can hear them coming. You can mention it. This would be my thought.
Get a Chardonnay and the Brut as well.
Okay.
And send me a picture of my dog. I will text him later to see how the arrangements are going. Nice.
I don't worry much about the horse.
No, I don't. Well, see, Madison was going to take care of it.
Like watch.
Thank you.
Well, she sent the change, so you had a great
Thank you very much. You did the
Thank you.
same.
So welcome. Hi, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You had custody.
August, Chardonnay.
Cabernet.
So it's going to be $24.61. That way you took our shit on this.
Son wanted to do the Sierra Nevada. He wanted to come to Asheville.
Oh, while you were in Mexico.
Yes.
All those cards.
It was.
I have it. I did not.
David's going to take our picture in front of us. Is that okay? Hurry, hurry, hurry. Thank you.
And it's really neat.
Due later, sir. For sure. But I want to get up there eventually. Do a arch thing and then come on down.
That's how the echolocate, isn't it?
I thought that from Mexican Lisa's fiance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I only have 20 times. And his name is Venus, Jose. He calls you.
No, I have the whole trailer. Yeah, we're gonna have a traffic jam in the middle.
Well, let's not be beating anybody with a cane.
Right here.
You're out cane.
Want to raise?
Real
Could be.
100-yard dash will be over in 2 months.
Yeah, about that. You know, I forgot to say
Let me know the day out.
Yeah.
they're all the way through the garden.
This guy here, like, are you kidding me? You're flashing. Holy crap. We're doing a little Nazi stuff here. There we go. We're doing Nazi now. Nazi fancy.
Still saying I'm not the hero.
They must have more.
Chihully makes, you know, something he goes through and then they can really what happened and goes anywhere.
This thing is probably just
Yep, going to be a personality.
You just put the selfie thing on there?
Really a model.
Okay, you all walk here.
Let's go.
Get my image. I'll try it. Here.
Yes,
I like the
reflection.
Yeah, isn't that quite something, isn't it? It really is lovely. I'm going to use your phrase tonight, building it. It's like a gondola because he did his first installation in Italy. So that's the whole sort of reflection of the water.
Huh? I know, it's just marvelous. I know. Did you see it during the day?
No.
Oh, you gotta see both. You gotta see both. Oh, was it nice and sunset?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. All right. Well, I think
This has been my surgery. Many years street. Even on Tripod, this back. It's
maybe that's his type.
They have a Chihully tree. That would be perfect. he was searching for that purpose. Yeah. Searching for what we got. These are rare.
I know these are
Which are lately at the stores.
Oh, you can? Oh, okay.
Lightning.
Bar.
Here you go, frog.
You hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be the problem. The sculptures are much better than the hills. Leave us.
We're only telling half the story.
That's right.
That's right, yeah. We gotta get them full speed.
Okay, move away, people. Quick, 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 quick. Don't move buses, don't move buses, don't move buses.
here, so can you stop there? I've got a risk. We've got to stop it.
It'll make a great shadow. Yeah, that cannot do it. Yes, it is.
All right, good, good, beautiful.
So you take sand and fire and put it together, and you have glass. And you make, it turns into a liquid. Imagine, the sand turns into a liquid, and then you stick a pipe in there and gather it up like honey and bring it out and blow down there, and you blow a shape that over the centuries, glass blowers have learned to make it into an incredible array of forms. And I've been lucky enough to come along at the right time, at the right place.
Whoa.
Be able to expand many of the forms that
Maybe
were
hold
made
it up a
throughout
little.
this 2,000-year history. I was using just human breath going down into this miraculous material, blowing it up, pushing its limits, making it as thin as I could, getting it so hot that it would almost collapse and begin to move. So I was pushing the edge of thinness and collapsibility and making new forms. You know, the baskets did evolve into the sea forms, and the sea forms evolved into the Persians. But you know, a series like the Venetians will come in, which are totally different. You know, or the chandeliers, which came out of nowhere. It requires a totally different type of thinking. I mean, we're not talking about objects here. We're talking about 12 or 1,400 pieces of glass making one object. And really, what I've always been interested in is space. Even when I made the cylinders, the single object cylinder, or the macchias, my interest was always in space. So I was thinking not of the object itself, but how the object would look in a room. The chandeliers don't really relate to that evolution of the basket sea forms Persians, probably. So, you know, as an artist, I just make, I just work, things just come out. So it's not that you're constantly searching for something new. It's just that something new comes. This is important. Make them as big as we can. Bigger, the better. I don't know why I work so large. I very often push a series to its maximum size. I think sometimes I do it just to keep the glass blowers at the very edge of their technical ability, to keep the tension high, to make it exciting, to make it so that we don't know whether it's going to break or not break. If you know exactly what you're doing and you can make it every time, it's not going to be interesting. It has to have this tension if the pieces are going to be good. And so we constantly push ourselves. You know, I push them, they push me. I try to get them to go beyond what they can do. It's more interesting that way.